Welcome to AI Assembled, the top AI news for small business. I'm Chris Doelle, and each week I bring you the most important AI developments that can transform your business. Let's dive into this week's top stories.
The whiplash story this week is Anthropic's most powerful models, Fable 5 and Mythos 5. On June 12th, the U.S. Commerce Department issued an emergency export control directive ordering Anthropic to shut off all access to those models for any foreign national, inside or outside the United States. The reported trigger was a 3-word prompt in a red team exercise, raising cyber offense concerns. 2 weeks later, a partial carve-out was granted for a short list of trusted federal agencies and companies. Then on June 30th, the White House lifted the export controls entirely, and Anthropic began restoring global access starting July 1st, with new cybersecurity safeguards and a fresh safety classifier layered on top. For small and mid-sized businesses, this is the first real-world signal that frontier models can now be paused, restricted, or gated overnight by federal directive. If your workflow depends on a single model, you now have concrete evidence that a single agency memo can turn it off. Build a fallback plan and know which model you'd switch to on 24 hours notice. While Anthropic was fighting an export ban, OpenAI was proposing a very different arrangement with Washington. The company has been in active talks about handing the U.S. government a roughly 5% equity stake worth about $42.6 billion at OpenAI's most recent post-money valuation. At the same time, OpenAI confirmed it is complying with a White House request to restrict its newest model to a small group of trusted partners pending a cybersecurity review. The same customer vetting regime now being applied to Anthropic. The takeaway for business leaders is that in a single quarter, the federal government has moved from regulator to gatekeeper to potential co-shareholder of the 2 labs behind most enterprise AI deployments. Procurement, data residency, and vendor risk questions that felt theoretical 6 months ago are suddenly very real. And if you're on an enterprise contract with either lab, expect the fine print around approved use cases and approved customers to keep getting tighter.
There is a clear signal this week that the strategy of just charging more per token is breaking. The most widely watched benchmark of AI token spending is down almost 20% from its May peak, after nearly doubling in the 6 months prior. Frontier tokens are now clocking in at roughly $4.20 per 1 million tokens, while open-weight tokens are running at about 85 cents per 1 million. And a Chinese lab made a 75% price cut on its flagship model Permanent in May, bringing costs down to as little as 2.5 cents per 1 million tokens. What this means is companies are not necessarily using less AI. They are aggressively substituting cheaper models, capping token budgets, and refusing to pay premium rates for marginal quality gains. If you're an SMB evaluating vendors, the leverage has moved to your side of the table. Ask for volume discounts, ask about model routing to cheaper tiers, and don't accept the first quoted per token rate as final. On the model side, Anthropic answered the whole export ban episode by shipping Claude Sonnet 5 the same day the ban was lifted. The headline features are a 1 million token context window, 128,000 token maximum output, and adaptive reasoning that can match the flagship Opus model on select benchmarks, at Sonnet tier pricing. The positioning is squarely agentic and enterprise, long horizon tasks, tool use, and coding. For a small business, the practical read is that mid-tier models are now good enough for tasks that used to require top-tier ones. If you're paying flagship rates for document review, code review, or research summarization, Sonnet 5 is worth a serious cost benchmark this month. Meanwhile, Google has been quietly steamrolling. Their model APIs are now processing roughly 19 billion tokens per minute. Over 375 Google Cloud Enterprise customers each processed more than 1 trillion tokens in the past year. Gemini 3.5 Flash, plus Google's new Agent-First development platform, went generally available with almost no fanfare, and Alphabet is raising $80 billion in stock to fund AI capital expenditure, part of a combined $800 billion that the biggest U.S. tech firms are collectively spending on AI infrastructure in 2026. The lesson is that raw model supremacy is delivering diminishing returns, and distribution is starting to win. If your team already lives inside Workspace, Search, or Chrome, Google's rollout is now the path of least resistance for adding AI to daily workflows.
A few more stories worth your attention this week. Tesla capped internal AI token usage for its own engineering teams, a concrete example of the token spend pullback showing up inside one of the largest and most AI-committed buyers in the market. When Tesla is putting a governor on its own consumption, that's a strong hint that the rest of the market is quietly doing the same. On the security front, the Five Eyes intelligence agencies issued a joint warning this week that large-scale AI-driven cyber attacks are months, not years, away. That warning is almost certainly part of the reason U.S. commerce moved so aggressively on the Anthropic models in the first place. For small businesses, this is a wake-up call to review your email security, your endpoint protection, and any customer-facing chatbot or agent that could be socially engineered. If you have not run a phishing simulation this quarter, this week is a good week to schedule one. On the macro side, the June jobs report added just 57,000 new jobs, a soft print that a growing number of analysts are attributing to AI-driven productivity substitution in white-collar roles. If you're an SMB in a services vertical, this cuts two ways. Your competitors may be quietly automating faster than you realize, and the talent pool for mid-level knowledge work may loosen materially in the second half of the year. And finally, a monetization split that will shape the consumer AI market. Meta is doubling down on paid AI subscriptions, while OpenAI and Elon Musk's competing lab are moving hard into advertising. OpenAI is now targeting $2.5 billion in ad revenue this year and $100 billion annually by 2030. For any SMB doing paid customer acquisition, that means a new advertising surface is coming, and the early cost per click on AI-native ad inventory is worth testing while it's still cheap. That's your week in AI. 3 stories that reset the industry. Enterprises are cutting token spend. The government is now a gatekeeper for frontier models, and quiet distribution is beating headline launches. Second half of 2026 is going to look nothing like the first.
That's it for this week's AI Assembled, the top AI news for small business. If you found this valuable, share it with a fellow business owner. And if you want to know whether AI tools can find and recommend your business, get your free AI website optimization report at freshmediaworks.com/AI ready. Until next week, keep innovating and keep it real.